because I want the topic to be evolved after seeing them.
Yeah,
so,
from the heart.
From the heart.
ஹர நம பார்வதிபதையே ஹர ஹர மகாதேவா. தென்னாடுடைய சிவனே போற்றி, எந்நாட்டவர்க்கும் இறைவா போற்றி, ஆரூர் அமர்ந்த அரசே போற்றி, சீரார் திருவையாரா போற்றி போற்றி. வணக்கம். Very good morning to you all. Taking into account the benign blessings of Ajavaradana Kamalavasanta Tyagaraja Swami of Thiruvarur and my Acharya, the 27th Guru Maha Sannidhanam of Dharmapura Adinam, it's my immense pleasure to be here today morning on the concluding day of the festival that has celebrated the Yoginis quite aptly as the monsoon sets in, when the season that is known as Sharat Rutu, the Sharada Kalam, is just setting up, and we are all getting ready to celebrate Devi during the most prominent of the Navaratris. It's around the corner. As the tradition goes, as the season changes once in 3 months, there are a set of dedicated 9 nights wherein Devi is invoked through various forms and worshipped. Some of us might assume that Navaratri is an annual celebration, so it happens like once a year. And popularly we have the Navaratri, which is called as the Sharan Navaratri, which coincides with the monsoons. Quite literally, Sharada Kalam means the monsoon season. So this is the Navaratri for the monsoon, which means there is a Navaratri for the spring, there is a Navaratri for other seasons also. So as every quarter the season changes, we have a Navaratri that is celebrated. Why is this exclusive worship of Devi scheduled based on the seasons, or more so the changing time? Devi quite literally comes out as this energy that manifested out of Shiva, which runs the world. As Saundarya Lahari describes her first ever origin as Shiva's Shakti, she is this manifestation of Shiva's energy, and hence the Lalita Sahasranamam concludes addressing her as Shiva, Shivashaktiyaike Rupini. Very apt concluding names for Devi. The universal mother as she is manifests out of Shiva. So as I was introduced, and the topic was introduced as the day to celebrate Shiva, the Somavaram as it happens. I'm not sure if it was planned to conclude on a Monday or it just so happened. Technically, to me, nothing gets planned by us. Though there is this popular saying that we propose and then it is disposed by God, we hardly even propose. The proposal as such is a disposal by the Almighty. He disposes, so we propose. At some level, sadhakas evolve to a state where they believe that everything as it happens has all been already as disposed by Him, and we are here to perform according to the script that He has prepared. Shri Vidya, as it is called, or this exclusive path to wisdom which invokes Devi and helps us see her manifestation in every object around us, starts with Shiva and ends with Shiva. Though the Mahameru or Sri Chakram as Devi's world is envisioned, predominantly is understood as a worship of the feminine energy. It is the feminine manifestation of the ultimate masculine component of hers, which is Shiva. So Shri Vidya Upasana, which is again predominantly understood as worship of Devi, invariably ends as the worship of Shiva. And it also starts as the worship of Shiva because these are two entities that seem like two but are so homogeneous you cannot split them into two parts. That's a beautiful way of understanding these two equal halves. They are so homogeneous that you see them as one, but they are understood as two. The whole component of Shiva and Shakti, the dual manifestation here, is understood as the state of physical being and the energy that it contains. Popularly, we classify energy into potential and kinetic. In the state of being, every object contains energy in it. And then by a state of motion, this energy is understood too. You have called these respectively as potential and kinetic. Here, when Shiva contains Shakti and in the state of being as Shiva, we understand it as potential energy. Where he is just there, the state of being, which by itself, by default, contains energy. This probably is that occasion where creation is just happening, destruction is getting over. When we talk about creation and destruction, it is not bound by time. It just keeps happening. As Swami creates, there is destruction. These are parallel activities that never gets over. And in between this creation and destruction, he sustains what has got to be sustained. So there is no time that binds it. We understand all this yuga calculation, assuming that now we have a calculation which says that this is the 5,000 plus years of Kali Yuga. So there is a suggested timeline for it, and we say at so many lakhth year or 1,000th year, Kali Yuga comes to a close. Not that it was the last working day of that particular Samvatsaram and everything at 12 in the midnight comes to a stop, or 6 a.m. in the morning it comes to a stop and everything starts the next second. It is a continuous process. All of these activities keeps happening as it is. If Srishti is a one-time process, Brahma's activity gets over on that day or that particular season or that restricted time. We are talking about people who participate in a frame where time is not even an element. They are the ones who control time. That is exactly why, of all the gods, it was only Shiva who could win over the god of death and pronounce over him death. Kala Kala, as he is called. If you can recall, none of the other gods have ever challenged the concept of Yama. And Yama is supposed to be Dharma Murti. We call him as Yama Dharma. He is an embodiment of righteousness. He's just perfect. May he fail, he will be punished very severely. So there is this little element of fear in him that he shall never compromise on righteousness. ஒரு விளையாட்டா சொல்லுவாங்க யமனுடைய சீட்டுக்கு மேல அவர் தலைக்கு மேல ஒரு கத்தி இருக்கு. Every time he fails, the sword drops by a few inches. And so he is very particular about being very just and right. So he'll never fail. That was exactly the reason why, be it Rama or Krishna, Yama knocked at their doorsteps when the time was right. He had to tell them, it is all up, now you will have to wind up. But it is only being Shiva who is able to pronounce death over the god of death. Hence he is Kala Kala, he is not bound by time. When Shiva is not bound by time, needless to say, the Devi is also not bound by time. They are equal halves and they share everything so perfectly. So perfect that when Shiva comes down as Vaidyanatha, Devi accompanies him as Tailambika. When he comes down as a doctor, what better form can Devi take than be somebody to assist him as his nurse in preparation of medicines? So in every temple that we see, they both share the name so particularly well that the task is equally binding. They both take responsibility in it. They share the responsibility. So when Shiva is not bound by time, when he is Kala Kala, so is Devi. So she goes beyond time as a concept. So when they command the process of creation and sustaining what has been created and destructing when the time is right, it means that it is an ever-going process. So the Yugantam does not mean that it is going to all stop at a particular time. As he is destructing, as the Mahasamharam happens, something is being created somewhere. To make it at an easy level of understanding for us, hospitals both have maternity wards and probably a mortuary. It is both an equal activity that just happens. And Swami and Devi do it so seamlessly because they've seen it a lot. They're so experienced. And they don't have the concept of attaching themselves to anything. So as this happens, so does the other. That's why we understand Swami as somebody who resides in this Mashanam, and the undertakers in any village is understood as a Shivaswarupam. So we make sure that they are propitiated well when you take their when you have their service being rendered for you. You know, their curses are considered to be extremely dangerous. Oh, because they have won over the concept of attachment. They see it like an everyday job for them. So creation and destruction and sustaining between these two activities is something that keeps happening. And we are all involved in this at some level as preferred by Swami and Devi. So anything that is created has to destroy at some point of time. It is only Swami and Devi who remain eternal, and hence they take this ultimate task of doing this job as a repeated cycle. But they are never bored of this because they do it as a very joyous activity. Inburum tan vilayattu. It is a very playful act for them. If we are forced into something, it gets too monotonous for us, and at some point we are like, I really need a break. Swami and Devi don't seem to have ever said that. Though they keep doing it it just keeps going on, right? Eternally. They do it as a playful act. We enjoy to play, right? Even at times, such hobbies get monotonous to us. But for them, this is an inburum vilayattu. So it is very playful that they are engaged always in this. And that's why we have concepts of Swami and Devi playing the game of Ludo or chess. There are actually depictions of Swami and Devi playing the Ludo. They actually discuss Brahma Rahasyam when they both engaged in throwing the dice and moving up and down. And that's when their interactions are extremely, very, very secretive, but they talk about very deep philosophy as they play with the die. And so is the game of chess. Chaturanga Vallabha, as Shiva is called. So he's an expert in playing chess also. Shiva is basically an expert in anything that he does. So Chaturanga Vallabha, as he is called, the one who plays chess like a grandmaster he is. So as they play and discuss these very, very deep-rooted plans for what it is next, there are very few who stand an audience. Very, very few. Limited people get audience when they are at their own pace playing the future. And those people who have attained this privilege of being in audience, stay muted, are the ones who have come over any kind of emotions. If Swami and Devi are going to discuss something very, very special, we get to eavesdrop. Our immediate tendency would be to go around sharing it, telling that, hey, look, I got to know this. I was an audience, so I got to know this. This is general tendency for us. Let's all accept it. There will be that one person to whom alone you want to say, and the rest is history. It just goes on. So these are the people who, when they get to be in audience, when Brahma Rahasyam is being discussed, stay muted. It doesn't make a difference for them whether they are at the gaining end or at the losing end, or what's going to happen next is of no big difference to them. They are those who have already attained that one step before becoming Shiva or becoming Shakti, and they are the ones who are called as Yogis and Yoginis. They have evolved at such great level where everything is perfectly fine for them, everything is imperfect as it is. They are the ones who can strike the best balance possible between these two extremes at that level. In that list, we have the Yoginis, whom we consider to be the Tantrika versions of evolved souls. Tantra is a very beautifully laid path or sadhana, which is open to all with a lot of restrictions that comes into place. Restrictions because Tantra is extremely disciplined. We feel that being disciplined is curbing your freedom. But in fact, to be free, you need to be disciplined. This discipline is what is going to help you attain freedom, ultimate freedom. We might say we are all in a free country, we are all in a free family, our thoughts are all very free. But we know where the shackles lie. There cannot be a time, there cannot be a plane where everything is free. Never at all. As long as we are bound by the material benefits, material pleasures, there is never an occasion where we are free. Maybe we assume we are not controlled by a set of people. We might be controlled by a set of laws. We might think we are the ones who pronounce the laws. Then there might be something more powerful which pronounces that. So at some level, the concept of freedom is not actually existing. These are the people who have disciplined themselves, starting from simple steps like maintaining a schedule for ourselves, maintaining basic ethics and morality, promising ourselves that I'm not going to compromise over these set of values that I framed for myself, come what may. These are those early steps, which the yoga tradition calls as yama and niyama. The first two steps of being bound by values which are not going to compromise for anything, come what may. These are very, very basic steps to begin with. If we are not able to contain ourselves over something very simple like food, for example, do we really say that we are free? There is that one plate that's cooked and kept in front of us, and when our urge is so much that we are not able to control ourselves, knowing well that it is going to cause us trouble, 30 minutes from then, if we consume it, still we are like, we are not free. The plate of food there is powerful enough to bind us. It has tied us. It has controlled us, in fact. Are we really free? Not at all. Once we have given ourselves over to our own senses, merely, see, well knowing that we would have tasted that particular delicacy like 100 times before, it would have worked the same wonder in us every time that we ate. It would have caused the same trouble 30 minutes from them every time we ate. Still we are so bound by it. Right? And we know that the joy that it gives is not going to last for more than a few seconds. You're not going to get over the taste after you swallow it through your throat. There it gets over. It changes right there. And this holds good for everything as it is. So, real freedom comes from this discipline, where you have managed to free yourself from the clutches of that one plateful of whatever delicacy it is. So it is to all our senses. To begin with, a simple control over such senses helps you come over these shackles, and that is when you are free. And this is the freedom that our acharyas have been talking about. Not merely the freedom to wear what you like and go around and do whatever you like. That is where, in fact, the concept of discipline comes in. Yeah, so that discipline is like the first step. So for somebody to even know about tattvas like the yoginis, that they are existing, should definitely have a minimum set of discipline where they conduct themselves. Without that, even to know all their names is a challenge. Many people ask, like, why was Sri Vidya not so popular 10, 15 years from now, 10, 15 years, 20 years back? Not many would have even heard about this. It's extremely unfortunate that today everybody is a Sri Vidya expert. That's a different thing. Not getting into it. Certain things are best understood when you're prepared to know it. That holds good for all the sadhanas. People mistake knowing something like this is a privilege. And some people even go to the extent of uploading it on their Instagram and Facebook bio. A Sri Vidya practitioner becomes a popular tag on Instagram bio. Extremely unfortunate. That's not the kind of value that Sri Vidya adds. In fact, they are the kind of people who want to, the moment they attain this level of realization, cut all sorts of cuts with anything that's distracting. And I'm sure these social media handles rank first when it comes to distractions. So this tattva of understanding those highly evolved souls, in order to create an urge in us to see if we can also step to that plane. This interest in us takes us through a journey. The mere interest takes us through a journey where at some point of time, by the blessings of the divine couple, we get to see somebody who has achieved this level, and they end up becoming our acharya. 10 years from then, if you sit back and think, how did I end up here? It would have been that one beautiful, dramatic journey that you can keep munching over a numerous number of times. it would be like that moment that you would have seen your just born, you know, the moment you touched the little kid that was born through you. And that is the kind of joy that I can compare with, because something that I've recently come across. So this journey through which people face through, just to recall it, in fact that is one of the disciplines for a sadhaka, to every day as a part of their ritual, to revisit the journey from where they started, to think about the ultimate compassion with which Swami and Devi had walked them through, to make them meet their Guru, see themselves in them, like a plane of mirror which gives you the best reflection of your own self. You see through them, and they from then on take this responsibility of shouldering us. They quite literally, they shoulder all of our karma, and for no reasons they take charge of our lives, they take charge of everything that we think is ours and walk us through the path. It becomes so easy for us, for somebody to sit and make all the choices for us. I mean, it's like going to a hotel and the burden of choosing the dishes, you know, if it falls on you, and it's going to be one big group of 12, 15 people, you'll want to finish it fast and come out of it, right? So this experience, when somebody else shares this responsibility and says, I've come here many times, I know what is good here, don't worry, sit back and relax, I'll order it for you. So you just sit back, you savor it, and you know, it's so seamless. Somebody else has done it all for you. That is the ease with which life turns once you hand over yourself to this Acharya, who takes all of this burden of making decisions and walking us through the path. And you would have definitely, so in fact this is a part of praying to your Acharya, because it is not merely to chant their names that Guru Vandanam happens as a part of daily ritual. It is for all that they have done from where we started to where we are today. We can definitely assess ourselves at that level. What we should not is probably go around sharing this rank card to everybody. You assess to your own self and be reminded that there is still a long way to go. But please be informed, you wouldn't even take one step for this. Yeah, your Acharya has forced you through this, and he or she has walked the path and had brought you here. Be thankful to them. Is the ultimate meaning of Guru Vandanam. It's not a part of your prayers that immediately after Ganapati Dhyanam you just do your Guru Dhyanam very, very mechanically and go to the next step. It is to pause at that moment and think how, you know, compassionate he or she has been and how they have taken up all this responsibility, and recall what would have been without them, and shed a tear probably at that level and making it as an arkyam, as an offering to them. Nothing like that one tear that drops out of you to go as an arkyam to Guru Paduka, than all the mantrapurvamana arkyam that you make in a patram and for all the chants that goes into it, and then offering it mechanically. Shedding a tear there helps you understand the journey that had been made so easy for us. On our behalf, somebody is doing it. So this is the level of the yoginis, which can be attained only through Guru Kripa. Today, if you want to know the names of the yoginis, ChatGPT can help you in less than a couple of, I mean, not even microseconds, probably less than that, because those are popularly asked questions, I am told. If you want to know their forms, yes, it is all there. But in fact, some people ask me, like, why aren't there temples so popular for the Sri Vidya tradition? Why you see temples for Shaivagamic traditions where Shiva becomes the primordial deity and Devi is always there accompanying him with all the Parivar Devatas. You have Vaishnavite shrines all over. You have these are so popular shrines. Why aren't there more number of temples like Kamakshi of Kanchipuram, where she sits as the Paradevata? Why aren't there so many temples? Be it even the Shaktipeethas, starting from a list of 18 to 51 and 64 and 108 and all these Shaktipeethas, they are just Peetham, a pedestal, quite literally, on which Devi's invocation is done and she is worshipped. Mostly those are the places where she is formless, because this is a level of study where it is extremely personal in connect. Concept of Sri Vidya reduces down to a very, very personal connect for the sadhaka with the tattva there. Unlike in Shaivite and Vaishnavite traditions, especially the Agamic traditions, where you have the concept of Parartha, which is a worship where there is a congress of devotees, where you all come together, and on behalf of all of us there is an archaka, a priest who takes up the responsibility to pray for the betterment of the universe, for the betterment of the country, for all the natural resources, timely monsoons. So this is a very, very broader, organized school of worship, which is for all of us put together, initiated and uninitiated. Sri Vidya happens at an extremely personal level. That is why, while this is a path which is extremely ancient, there weren't many publicly available resources. Some of the acharyas themselves were extremely closeted. You wouldn't know them. You wouldn't know that they are people who have been, offered the Purna Abhishekam, and people who can actually, guide you through. It is such a closeted school because this works out wonder at a personal level. It is completely personal. That's why people don't go around popularizing that they do this, and certainly not over Skype or Instagram calls people get initiated, and that was not the school at all. To believe in a guru is common to all schools, irrespective of which branch of Indian tradition that you belong to. A guru's role is undisputed. But in Sri Vidya, a guru is through whom Devi talks to us. Every word from a guru is accepted as a conversation with Devi. And that's why most of the times Sri Vidya Acharyas prefer being in Maunam. Continuous Maunam is something that is very common in them. Very, very few occasions they come up with sign languages, which are very weird, that only a few get to understand it. They are not the people who observe Maunam with a notebook and pen next to them and keep writing pages of conversation. That's not how Maunam works. You are really winning over one of the senses given to you to express yourself. Those are the occasions where you start expressing yourself within, understanding the ultimate from within, and conversing or striking a conversation with Devi as the Anmartha within you is what is the ultimate level. And those are the people who are in the process of attaining it. And they start envisioning Devi in everything around us. Now, if you've gone, I'm sure all of you all visited the exhibition. Each of the yogini has a unique name, and each of them have a unique form. The nama and rupa varies. A well-attained sadhaka starts seeing one of these yoginis in all of us. Based upon our qualities, our capacity, the chosen path for sadhana ends up in them zeroing down upon us one of those 64 yoginis. And under the control of each of the yoginis, there are 1 crore devatas, as it is believed. So that's a total of 64 crore yoginis who are at the service of Devi. And these 64 of them have exclusive, entitled services which they are at the beck and call of Devi. In fact, the Chatusarti Upacharam, as it is called, the 64 Upacharas that are done to Devi as a part of many pujas is primarily from Navavarna Puja, but you see it in other minor variations also. All of these 64 are to attend to those 64 Upacharas, and each of the yogini are assisted by 1 crore of their attendants, which means there are a total of 64 crore yoginis who are at the service of Devi. In fact, at Varanasi, there is one of the ghats which is called as the Chaushat Yogini Ghat, the Chatusarti Yogini Ghat, and there is this one temple where the 64 yoginis are invoked in small Shivalinga representation, and Devi as Tripura Sundari sits in the center, attended to by all the 64 of them. It is believed that at that particular ghat, the 64 yoginis were elevated to a level by Vishwanatha to be at the service of Tripura Sundari and assist her whenever she is in action. When she is in tapas, they all enjoy to partake in the tapas along with her. When she is engaged in Shiva Dhyana, all the 64 of them sit around her and also engage in Shiva Dhyana. For an easy understanding, they are like the Shiva Gana equivalent for Devi. The Ganas are also extremely evolved souls who aren't attached to anything but Shiva. Their only attachment is with Shiva. So they are always joyful. Shiva is Ananda Rupa. He is always in extreme bliss. When you are so attached to something, the qualities of that object becomes yours. You start sharing the qualities. That's why we insist upon being in company of good people, being in company of people with good nature, people who are truthful to themselves, people who are sadhakas, will have a striking influence on you and you become one with them. So the Shiva Ganas, always in the connect of Shiva, are in extreme bliss, a state of extreme bliss always. So the Yoginis are somewhat similar to the Ganas, the Shiva Ganas, and they are always at the service of Devi. Devi is always in a state of bliss, Ananda Swarupam, that she is in. Complete level of consciousness, Paramajnana Swarupam, that she is, all of which reflects on the Yoginis. So they have, irrespective of their form and name, attained the state of being in close proximity to Devi, and this continuous connect with her makes them attain the same level. So each of the sadhaka aims at becoming one of those yoginis, irrespective of the name and the form. If you notice, you have some of the yoginis who resemble the face of a bear, a face of a monkey, a face of a dog, in fact. Irrespective of what is the stature, while they are domestic or wild, or their qualities as we see, each of us resemble one of those yoginis, which is understood by the Acharya, because they see us through and they know what we are capable of. It's like a doctor who, with few symptoms that you share, can prescribe the best medicine for you. The doctors, of course, when it does not work, they go for a different set of medicines. But our Acharyas are slightly smarter. They know it all, and by minimum interaction, by the touch and feel and look and conversations, they can come to a conclusion and prescribe a set of medicines for us. That's exactly why we say, please do not popularize Sri Vidya, because for each of us, it is customized. And that customization can happen only through the Acharya. It is never ever a standard school. For that matter, none of the schools can be standardized at that level. Shaiva Agama has different set of mantras for the same level of Diksha for different people. It is the Acharya who sits in the mantra peetam during the process of Diksha, as they know us. They might not even know us at times. You've just requested for a Diksha, and that day there might be 30 other people who are getting. But the Acharya who sits in the mantra peetam, who sits in Shiva Dhyanam, who sits in Shivoham Bhavane, where they start seeing themselves as Shiva, know it best to scan through us, irrespective of who is sitting in front of them. They know what they are capable of, and the mantra will vary. Similarly for Sri Vidya, it might be the same Devata for that matter, but even within that, you have the mantra bhedam. So the best is to get it through an Acharya. Today, YouTube offers you literally everything. I think, but for Moksham and Srishti, YouTube is capable of doing almost everything. It is in a way unfortunate only, but the traditional schools sincerely request that these are not the gurus who can scan through you. So far, it has not reached that level. They are not sure. Matter of time, anything can happen, but it is not able to assess. It knows what you like, because you keep always sharing things with it better. So it scans through you, it gives you the best choices. It knows what you should be watching next, what you should be learning next. And that all that happens. So off late, apart from just picking words from our other conversations, it has started understanding us better and throwing on our face what we prefer. But still, I'm not sure if it has reached a level where it can evaluate the need and capacity of us and probably offer a mantra. But an Acharya can still do it, and that's exactly why we suggest, the traditional schools where sticking on to an Acharya, worshipping them, winning over the ego by falling at their feet, accepting a pair of their sandals as, the padukas as they are called reverentially, as a medium of, a plane to attain solace, pray to it, a pair of sandals there, which we generally don't respect, right? It zeroes down to a pair of footwear. But when it is owned by the Acharya, he or she carries the tradition that starts from Devi. So it is from the Paduka of Devi. And you reverentially place it on your head. The moments where your ego is taken to a toss, you're not going to do it for anybody else. I mean, the moment we touch our own footwear, we search for a wash basin to wash our hands, right? So a pair of sandals becomes something worthy of worship. The water that we used to wash it, the Paduka Tirtham, it becomes Tirtham to us. And it is all made a part of Devi's worship, where an Acharya Paduka is worshipped at par with the image of Devi, or in fact one step ahead of the image of Devi. You might for a day skip remembering Devi, but the Acharya Padukas are to be remembered every day. The easiest way to kill over the concept of ego, which in fact is ruling us, that which instigates every sense of ours the moment that it is touched upon. So to win over it, the easiest way is to fall at the feet of an Acharya, after which I promise you, 10 years from then, 5 years from then, maybe even a year from then, you will realize that everything has been made so easy and you've reached a level which was never in your agenda, which you thought is never your objective, which you thought is never your preference. That is the role of an Acharya in identifying who we are, what we are capable of, and helping us achieve that level. The level that we achieve is nothing short of becoming Devi and realizing Shiva through her. Ultimately, realizing the presence of Shiva within us is what is going to take us as this life's journey. Being born as a human being is considered very special because we are blessed with this sixth sense, which we hardly put to use. That's a different thing. But at least we have a choice to use it, unlike other lesser evolved. So human birth is generally celebrated for that one reason. And it is after a long fight that one Anma gets this humanly bodily frame. Upanishads tell us about this cycle through which every Anma travels through to get this one physical frame which supports the Jivatma. It is said that Jivatmas, the Uyir Vargam as they are called, are countless. Pati is one, Swami is ultimately one. While all of these, the Jiva Vargas, are countless. Animate, inanimate, everything contains him. So by the mere level of being a Jiva Vargam, takes a long journey to finally find that one physical mortal frame based on which it can function. So it is said that the moment somebody sheds their bodily frame, the Anma travels out of it, and after certain steps or procedural travel, reaches to the clouds and stays there pretty much and waits till there is a possibility of rain. And with every drop of water, one Jivatma travels down. That's how the travel is again facilitated for those who have been absorbed up there. Every droplet of water can contain only one Jiva Varga, and that Jivatma falls through that one droplet of water. That's why we have this tradition not to use rainwater directly. We always filter it and use it, and in fact to get drenched in rainwater for all your cosmetic Instagram videos is ashastriyam, which is generally not to be done because we believe that with every drop of water there is the essence of life in it, which if the Jiva Varga is fortunate enough, falls in an agricultural field, and if it is still fortunate enough, might be absorbed by that one straw of plant there, and if it is still fortunate enough, might become that one grain covered by a husk, and if it is still fortunate enough, when being beaten after harvest, gets to remain in a heap which is going to be transferred into a sack. If it is still fortunate enough, does not loses its sack's presence when it is being transported. If it is still fortunate enough, reaches a residence. If it is still fortunate enough, is taken to the urn. From there, if it is still fortunate enough, the household woman who is going to cook, as she measures it, does not get dropped out, spilled over. If it is still fortunate enough, when she is going to dehusk it, it still stays. If it is fortunate enough, gets into the gets into the pot where it is being cooked. If it is still fortunate enough, comes out and gets transferred to a plate. If it is still fortunate enough, consumed by a man and gets through his strength at that level. And if it is still fortunate enough, it reaches the womb with a potential egg. And there are occasions where even there, thousands of it, lakhs of it get lost. Then gets into a woman's womb and groomed, if it is fortunate enough to come over the challenges, biological, geographical, fated, whatever, and comes out, and if it's still fortunate enough, comes out without any deviations. This is the journey that every Jiva Varga has taken to attain the state of being a human being. Isn't it worthy enough to be protected? Can we just take it for granted? Can we still afford to waste this one birth that has reached us? I mean, you can fix this with science also after a point of time. I mean, some people might believe that, the raindrops and falling and all that is not very scientific, but if you actually zero it down, our acharyas praise the rain so much because life-giving factor, end of the day. You might end up creating artificial rain, but that is not going to be a final solution. And even this birth is so celebrated in tropical countries because the weather is equable. And it is also praised in countries where there are no wars. Because when you're afflicted by wars, thinking about philosophy or using mediums like art or performing arts or music or dance as a means to sadhana cannot even happen. It is a mere blessing. If you ever wonder why the entire universe is all Swami's creation, why is there so much praise for Bharatavarsha? Why is there people think that we are fortunate enough? One needs to be a punyatma to be born here because thankfully there had not been occasions where for several centuries we were struck by floods or famine or where these troubles were there. They were on and off, they were all there, but predominantly our country has always proposed being calm and quiet and attaining freedom even through non-violence. So at that level, this is definitely a blessed birth for all of us. But is it a mandate that we are born here? Not necessarily. We see so many who were born elsewhere, who are through some connect pulled towards Bharata Desha, come here and start realizing themselves, call this as their home and prefer staying here always. That just happens. This is not a trend that you see in other countries. There might be very cosmetic, comfortable, whatever kind of dreamlands anywhere else. But tell me another place where people from random other places love going and staying there forever for something which is actually less of a comfort from where they come from. I mean, from very, very cosmetic countries, and the kind of comfort that people get there. I mean, where you have 200 different choices for even a pillow to be bought. They zero it all down to come and stay in places like Kashi, which some of us wouldn't actually want to call a home, for whatever reason. But the reality of Kashi is completely different. They are those who have been blessed to understand its originality and come and stay there. This is because being born here has its own perks, and being born as a human being by default is special. Being born in a country like Bharata is even more special, where we think about how to come out of this vicious cycle. We don't think about more births. We don't think about living eternally because it is well known to our acharyas that life is never eternal. You cannot get it. That's why we have so many Puranas where most of the asuras always prayed for being eternal, and they were taught a lesson always. That saying eternal is not possible. That's not how it works. In fact, the Devatas, when they thought about winning over death by Amritam, they had to go through so many barricades that they had to cross, and ultimately it was Shiva who blessed them and took the alahala poison and considered both to be equal to teach them a lesson. But unfortunately, even they were not that evolved to understand that Shiva himself is there. When you're directly in connect with him, what difference that a drop of Amritam makes, they are not able to understand it. So through these Puranas, we understand that the mortality is something that is part of life. And we think about what happens after this and how to come out of this vicious cycle. That is exactly where so many paths for sadhanas come our way. And Sri Vidya is at a very, very personal level, technically reserved for somebody who can actually keep this very personal. You might see a lot of people of late who pose to be acharyas who can initiate this, that and all. You can closely watch them very quietly. You can just follow them on their social media handles. You can follow them. There will be a time where they suddenly just disappear. So that's not how it is dealt with. In fact, it is one of the ways Tirodhana works to hide you, to screen you off from the reality, and you fall for it. For people who are so much obsessed with Sri Vidya today, looking out for Guru and trying various different gurus with whom they can try connect with. My humble suggestion when they ask me is pray to Devi and leave it at that level. Just keep doing what you've been doing. If you're worthy of meeting a guru in this one janma, it will just happen. It will for sure happen. You can definitely not miss the glance. Nobody would be that unfortunate to miss the glance when they are destined to. So becoming yoginis through this acharya sambandham is what is taken through the sadhana which Sri Vidya proposes. That is exactly what Shaivacharyas also prescribe to become these Shiva Ganas. If you ever wonder why Ammayar, Karaikal Ammayar, of all the forms that were available for her, chose to become a Pei Ganam, because the Bhuta Ganas are in constant connect with Shiva. They are along with him always. Even during Mahasamhara Kalam, when Devi herself has dissolved in him, because energy gets dissolved and so everything comes to a standstill, because there is no energy, everything comes to a standstill. It is only the Bhutaganas that dances, sings and plays with him. Karaikalammayar wanted this level. She always wanted to be in his presence, even during Mahasamhara Kalam, and so chose to be a Bhutaganam, the Pei Vadivam that she prayed for. So becoming the Ganas, as it is for the Shaivaites, is as much as it is for the Sri Vidya Upasakas to become a yogini. And that is exactly why this beautiful school is so limited that you hardly see 3 or 4 temples all over India where the yogini devatas are envisioned through their murti tattva. I am sure when they were built, those were not the temples that would have been open to all. If anything, it would cause a lot of unnecessary questions and doubts if somebody is not initiated into it. Same reason why Sri Vidya is considered to be Guhya Guhyamuttam. It is the most superlative of everything that is secret. Secretive of everything that is secret, that Sri Vidya is. Because mere reading or getting to know of what it is might cause a lot of irreversible damage at that level. And this is something that is very exclusive. If and only if you are destined, you get to see it. All over years, we've seen when there is a necessity, somebody unknowing to them, is shared with this responsibility to bring certain things out to the world. It just happens. But there again, I tell you, it is definitely not that everybody will be given a chance to even see it. It is like the secret formula of Pepsi or Coca-Cola. You get a bottle of the drink outside your house for 10 bucks, but the secret, I am told, is very well protected, that nobody can ever crack it. It is something like that. It might be just in front of you, but for you to know that you are seeing this, for you to understand that this is what you are seeing, you need to be tested. Time and again through history, we have had certain acharyas who come out of nowhere to break open this and make it available. Though they make it available, it is only put to use, or it only serves the purpose for a few. Like for example, we had this great Alma Mahacharya called Abhirami Bhattar, about whom there was a discussion right here in this venue I was told, who around the 16th, 17th century, very recently in fact, or even later, 1700, so 18th century, came out of nowhere and he was a mere devotee, and Devi out of all chose him. Somebody who didn't have a great Sishya Varga, not that he was this Acharya who had hundreds of followers, not that he was giving out Diksha to everybody, nothing at all. And not that he just wanted to share his experience that he shared, or one fine day she just decided, or one fine night she just decided. Today certain aspects of Sri Vidya will be brought out in Tamil. And thus born was Abhirami Bhattar, quite literally putting him through such tests making him stand over an Agni, Kuntam. In fact, all of that is, according to my Acharya at least, is to be looked upon as him performing a tapas, standing on the Agni, which is exactly how you get to realize, and all your realizations pours out as such compositions. One needs to have mastered Tamil so much to even sit and write these compositions at ease. Maybe to count the meter, to choose the best words, to tell only what is to be said and to close what is not to be, to camouflage certain things with choicest of the words, and to come up with 100 songs in a set meter. Even for a Mahakavi, will have to sit and write and scribble and tear off the sheet and then start afresh, and that's how it could have been. For him, it was a test where he was literally stationed upon a burning pit of fire. That is like something that which consumed him. That's like the final Agni in which he was offering himself as the Purnahuti. And at that level, this knowledge just poured out. It came as a pouring, outpour. And that has some of the best known secrets. I'm sure most of us here would have at least heard about Abhirami Andadi. Some of us would have definitely read it. Some of us might even have it in our everyday chant. But to go to the depth of understanding and interpreting it the way Abhirami Bhattar did, we might need an Acharya's help. And even at that level, my own Acharya had said this, even if you sit with your Acharya, he or she might be elaborating on the commentary of Abhirami Andadi to you at a very, very exclusive gathering where it is probably you and him or her, and you sit and listen to it. You might know all the songs by heart, and as he or she reveals it to you, Devi should have decided at that moment, though the Acharya is all knowing, those commentaries that were passed on to him, all of it should come to his memory at that moment for you to know it. That is how the worthiness is decided. If the Acharya for a moment goes over and goes to the next line before actually delivering the meaning of a particular phrase to which he is well aware, but something didn't command him to reveal it at that level, and that was never passed on to you. So there is this little dip of knowledge in you. This is exactly how Sri Vidya works, and that is why there is this emphasis to reach out to an Acharya who comes in a traditional school and take it from him or her. Certainly, no amount of YouTube tutorials is going to do this justice like ever. If you are really interested in a sadhana, patience becomes your first virtue, and you wait and wait and wait till the time is right. Who knows it better than Devi to help us reach that level when it is apt? So all of this comes into consideration. So even to understand Abhirami Andadi, if it is destined to you at that moment, it happens. Else there might be a bifurcation, and something that was transferred to him or her wouldn't have reached you. This is again decided by Devi. So like how Abhirami Bhattar intervened the timeline, all of a sudden chosen by Devi to pour out the deepest of the meanings, each of the tattvas. In fact, there are acharyas who have identified all the 1,000 names of Devi from Abhirami Andadi as such. Because Lalita Sahasranamam needs a diksha. Not that you just play on to the best ever available rendering and you sit, listen to it and chant it. Sahasranamam is certainly not that way. It does not work that way. If you say that you've been reading Sahasranamam every day and you've not seen any benefits within quotes, it only means that you've not taken the Sahasranamam from an acharya. Undoubtedly, just because there are cassette renderings and MP4 files and YouTube videos in 3-4 parts with amazing graphics coming over it, and that you've heard it so many times, if not through a guru, it is not going to work out. Especially the dhyanam and nyasam and at least the first 3 namas has got to be taken from a guru before you start chanting it all over. Only then it fruits to you. That is when it ends up becoming of some use to you. For a change, if you are so keen in it and if you just want to pounce over it and take it forward, it is like trying to try a medicine, a random medicine, just because you're interested in it, just because it worked out for somebody. It might end up becoming extremely drastic and deadly for you. So these mantras are protected, safeguarded, and in fact when two sadhakas interact, they only refer to these mantras through the syllables in it, to the count of aksharas in it. not by even the name of the mantras. You don't even say that this is how the mantra starts or this is what it is. It is by the mere count of it the mantra is referred to. So for the uninitiated, you might not know even the devata about whom they are conversing. To begin with, they won't even converse in public. That being said, when there is a conversation, it is only through the number of syllables, the aksharas in it with which they refer to it. That is how specific it is. In the list of yoginis, you would have seen a few of them who share the names of rivers. Narmada, Yamuna, these are all the yoginis who share the names of rivers. There are different lists of yogini names also, where sometimes a few of the parvatas become yoginis. The names of few mountains, the 8 mountains, become yoginis too. This is a beautiful tradition where all the natural resources, all that which strengthens us, all that which helps us sustain, are all understood as Devi. They are all gifts to mankind through Swami in the form of Devi. That is why in Indian tradition we respect every ounce of natural resource as special. Even if you say water as a tattva is to be worshipped, we go into much details where every river which is the source of water becomes a devata per se, and we worship her. There is never this concept of it's a mere water, it's a river, it changes course. In fact, we address to her as she. It is never a need to us. It's a living form. Undoubtedly, that's a source of water. So it's a source of life, right? And so we consider every source as a yogini who has blessed us. In fact, in some of the Sri Vidya methodologies, every time you make a Tirtha Yatra, you come back to your own puja, your Anmanta puja, and you describe your pilgrimage, telling that these are all the parvatas that which I had a darshan of. These are all the rivers that which I had a darshan of. These are the kshetras where I went. These are the devatas that I saw. This is because to tell her, your Anmaharta Murti, that I saw you in all of these. I personally feel Muthuswami Dikshitar, the great Mahan Vagyakara as he is called, not a mere composer, not a mere musician, should have followed this tradition. Every time he went on a Kshetra Yatra, his experiences were always composed as compositions. I don't see them as mere compositions. I mean, you have thousands of composers the world had seen. Some of their music are all very, very touching and moving. Dikshitar's composition are to be understood like Vedas. They are stotras, and I personally feel all his compositions were referring to these anubhavams that he had in every pilgrimage that he made to Devi, to tell her, I saw you in all of these. That is the level somebody can reach by this sadhana, where they start seeing Devi everywhere. He starts singing about Nataraja and Ananda Natara Prakasham, the Kedar Raga Kriti. He sees Nataraja as the omnipresent, omnipotent, he's there everywhere. When he sings about Ranganatha Swami, he sees Ranganatha everywhere, but ultimately he sees Devi in all of them. He sees them all as their Shakti Tattva and prays to them. That is why we don't have the concept of any god who hasn't got a Shakti Tattva to them. Take the Ashtamatrukas, starting from Maheshwari, Vaishnavi, Kaumari, Varahi, Mahalakshmi, Narasimhi, and it goes on. The 8 Matruka Devatas. They are all the Shakti Tattva of each of the male deities who have all come out of Shiva to a purpose, for a specific purpose. It is said that Swami, as he was all by himself, after the Mahasamhara Kalam, as Srishti was just happening, through him, Devi emerges as his Shakti Tattva. Because when she is not there, everything comes to a standstill. For things to set in motion, she is there. This is exactly the difference between Brahmacharya and Grihastha-ashrama. A Brahmachari is required to stand still. His senses are to be controlled and kept frozen. He is not supposed to split over his senses at any moment. Exactly why He's not even allowed to perfume himself. There is no offering of chandanam to a brahmachari. There is no offering to of tambulam to a brahmachari. None of these comforts are a part. He just wears one cloth. I mean, bare minimum is what it is for a brahmachari. It is only during the wedding, the vratam that he breaks, he sees the Shakti Tattva that comes out of him. Quite literally, till then it is all controlled, and it is only when an equal half comes along with him. That's exactly why we say marriage is sacred. It's a lifetime experience that every individual gets. And only then he has the capacity to perform any dharma. Till then he is only in the receiving end. He only receives it. Only after getting married, he gets to perform dharma. Because to set anything in motion is possible only when he realizes the Shakti Tattva as an equal component within. This holds good for starting from Swami himself. Shiva himself sets everything in motion only when Devi is brought out from him, through him, and she emerges as his equal half, stays along with him, and through the divine couple, we have Brahma, who is accompanied by Brahmi, Vishnu, who is accompanied by Vaishnavi, Rudra, who is accompanied by Raudri, Indra with Indrani, Yama with Chandi, and this list is the Chamunda, Kumara with Kaumari, and Narasimha with Narasimhi. So all of these devatas are referred to as the Matruka devatas, the Ashtamatrukas as they are called. Generally the Saptamatrukas are quite popular, but the list actually has Ashtamatrukas who are a part of the first Avarana of Devi. Within the Bhupura they are all there. So they are the guardian deities for the 8 directions. They are all mother goddesses. They've all attained the level of being mothers because through them creation has happened. They take up the role of sustaining that is being created. And finally they stand witness to destruction also. So they are the Matruka Devatas who are again in the eternal service of Tripureshi. They are there to take over the tasks bestowed upon them and perform it to the best of their ability as chosen by Devi. They are there at the eternal service of Devi too. Then you have concept of time as it emerges. Because as Srishti happens, Swami frames everything within a time limit. Only they are out of it. Only Swami could win over Kala. But everything else is bound by time. That is when the concept of Titinitya Devis comes in. The 15 Devatas, who are all embodiment of the 15 days of a fortnight, are all worshipped. They are called as Titi because they are so frequent. The frequency is perfectly measured. The same reason why you call your guests as Atithi. They are not to be coming very frequently. if they are very frequent visitors, they become a part of family. Guests are Atithi because they are not frequent. They are once in a while. Tithis are those who are extremely frequent. You know, if today is Panchami, 15 days from now, again the Panchami Devi will be there. So that the frequency is well maintained and hence they are called as the Tithi Devis. And each of the day of the fortnight, excluding Paurnami and Amavasya, you have the 15 days. So starting from Prathamai, each of them are given a name and Devi puts them in charge of monitoring concept of time. So it is based on these fortnightly calculations. We have a month's schedule planned. It is based on the monthly calculation. You have a year that is scheduled. And of course, the year plays a major role in accounting for all that we do. So the smallest aspect there is for the day's time limit, which again Devi commands through one of the Nitya Devis, who are so frequent and who take up charge of conducting the day. It is said that Surya and Chandra report to them and say, as envisioned by Devi, that on this day, at this time, the sun rises. And in fact, the whole point of us having different weather conditions is said to be a command of Devi, where knowing what we can bear, she has given us these seasonal changes. She says, while they need this for a certain period of time, let them enjoy it. This shall facilitate agriculture better. Now this weather shall facilitate other kinds of crops better. This might be good to replenish the water bodies. So let there be monsoon for these time. So this is in fact all controlled by Devi, and hence we have the tradition of thanking her for these seasonal changes, once a quarter and celebrating the Navaratri once a quarter. So amidst this, why did Sharan Navaratri, which is around the corner, become so popular that all of us consider that to be the most important? Is because this is the time when she is thanked for the bountiful monsoons, and any other weather condition can be tolerated if it lapses a few years. If the spring is not on time, maybe there might be some damage. There's going to be definitely some damage, but imagine if there are no rains. This becomes the very purpose, the very first tool to conduct the universe. So we are so thankful to her that during the monsoons it rains, and Devi's abundant blessings come down as rains to replenish all the natural resources, and we thank her during this quarter exclusively. But otherwise also you have a Navaratri during the month of Tai, which is the Makara Masam, and then you have the Ashada month, you have the Chaitra Navaratri, which is for the Vasanta Kalam. So once in 3 months you have a different Navaratri where different aspects are operated. In fact, the Ashada Navaratri is exclusively celebrated for Devi as Varahi, because that's the time that you sow the seeds and you wait for the next 6 months. Intermediate monsoons are there 3 months from then. From Adi Masam you have the monsoons, and 3 months from then you have the harvest. So Varahi, as this person who holds on to the plough, and the Dhandanayika she is, blesses us the season which is good for sowing the seeds and ploughing the fields. So these seasons are so beautifully planned, we believe, by Devi, and the Nitya Devis who take charge of conducting the days are again commanded by Devi. So we are thankful to her that the sun rises at time every day. We are so thankful to her that the sun retires after say 12 or 13 hours in a day, and there is a moon that rises, takes charge from then on. Imagine if there is going to be a chaos in this. Though we say that it is after all scientific, why should certain things happen a certain way is still unanswered. And Upper Swamigal says, Nadayai meyyendru nathigam pesade, padaigal pol varum panchama bhudangal. Just because you are able to pick up yourself and walk, don't say that there is no God, and don't get into the framework of a Nastika. For a moment, imagine challenging one of the 5 bhutas. We are nothing in front of it. So which only means that there is something much more powerful that controls it. A very brilliant way of challenging the Nastikas, Nadayai meyyendru nathigam pesade. Just because you are able to pick up yourself and walk, it does not mean that there is nobody else controlling you. Padaigal pol varum panchama bhutangal. It might come like a swarm, an army. One of the bhutas, even if it starts fighting against you, there is no way human race can ever win. So, being thankful to her, through all those attendants whom she has created, she has commanded to conduct the universe in a particular way. Being thankful to her that through these attendants, we reach out to her, we understand her. Being thankful to her that she has given us this one exclusive choice of being born as a human being, to have this opportunity to think about slightly higher topics, to think about how to realize this, to pray to her to facilitate this realization, and be thankful to her that she has helped us with a guru who has promised to tread our path instead of us, quite literally carrying us in his or her shoulders without giving us the slightest pain of even walking down the challenging path. He or she carries us as they walk, and all of this is through the several attendants whom Devi has commanded in order to help us reach her. The Yoginis in this long journey play an extremely significant role by being the closest associates of Devi, who knows her all. Even before she commands them, they are all right there. And they become this classic example to understand what is life worthy of. The worth is to serve Devi as the Yoginis do, to her happiness, instead of looking for what is it that I earn out of it. The Yoginis are so happy because they are not looking forward for things to happen to make them happy. They are in the close connect of Devi, who is always Paramananda Swarupam. They are happy. They don't want anything for themselves to feel happy, so they are eternally happy. They have very, very elevated lessons to make life so beautiful and easy for us. And Yogini Upasana is not simple for somebody to even think about in a lifetime. And for no reasons of flattery, I should say, for somebody to spend a considerable amount of their life's time to envision them, to paint them all so much, and give a selected few of us a chance to see them or think about them for 5 days is no mere task. It certainly deserves to be quite literally chosen at some point of time for all the good Vinay that they have earned over several janmas, to put this to paint and brush and canvas and invite us so particularly to say and make it so easy to, hey, come and look, have a look at these things. So I'm thankful to the artist who has done this job. As I was telling, at times when certain things are to be revealed, it just so happens. Not that this is on a world tour and everybody gets to see it. It was so exclusive, it was kept here. Though the advertisements were there all over, maybe a part of Chennai's population got to visit. Maybe people from outside, very few were fortunate enough to visit it. Those were those who have been chosen by Devi to have that one darshan of all the yoginis, kept in a very comfortable place with beautiful lighting and an information card with limited information as what is to be known for all kinds. So I'm thankful for this attempt of yours, and may Devi bless us all. With Navaratri around the corner, what would be a better way to kickstart our sadhana than to have a darshan of all the yoginis. Wishing you all the best of luck. I didn't have any preparation. There was no topic in my mind. So as she just suggested to talk something about Shiva, I don't know if I've done any justice to the talk. But this is merely sharing my experience as my acharyas have told me, and always with a sensor so strongly hanging from inside, controlling certain things which are never publicized, never published. Most of this are information that you might all be knowing already. If not, thanks to all the acharyas. If you feel that there is anything wrong in what I said, it is because of my karma. I seek your apologies at that level, and I'd like to conclude it. Murthy Ellam Vadi, Yengal Mona Guru Vadi, Arul Varthai Endrum Vadi, Anbar Vadi Parabarame. Ellam Shri Tyagaraja Kripai, Shri Tyagaraja Maharajo Vijayate, Arura Tyagesa. Nandri Vanakkam.
I would like to say something now.
Oh, please.
When you invited him, I went to my Guru's talk and I heard you speaking.